Good day, everyone. A warm welcome to you all. Thank you for tuning in to the Kongsberg Maritime webinar. The topic of today is the Dynamic Positioning Digital Survey Application. A mouthful, but in short, DPDS. My name is Harry Verhoeven. I have a background in the merchant navy and the offshore industry for 40 years. And has been a captain, offshore installation manager and rig leader for 24 years. I've joined Kongsberg Maritime in 2011 as product manager for DP and maneuvering, and at present I work as a DP product advisor with focus on maritime operations. My co-presenter of today is Amir Klepper-Sangane. Amir will introduce himself during the session. We hope sincerely that you are in good shape, and we thank you for joining us today. Before we start, just a few words on the format of the webinar. It will last for 30 minutes, and that includes a Q&A session at the end. As we move through the presentation, please feel free to submit a question. You can do this through the control panel, which you can find at the top right side of your screen. Now we will start the engines, cast off and get on the way to present the DPDS webinar. And I would like to start with a short visit to the history of the annual trials. As some of you might remember, there were no formal DP annual trials in the early 80s when the DP vessels were introduced in great numbers in the offshore industry, other than some class survey tests. The only trials held were the client acceptance trials for every new project. This resulted in a multitude of trials per year as the contracts were of short duration. Some trials could be intrusive as some experts were pulling printed circuit boards from the DP control computers. This often resulted in damage to the DP equipment. As a safeguard, however, we always had a Kongsberg engineer on board with a big suitcase of spare parts. In the early 90s, IMO introduced Circular 645 and 1580 superseded 645 in 2017 with the title Guidelines for Vessels with DP Systems. And in the early 90s, also the owners, they formed the DP Vessel Owners Association, which became IMCA in 95. One of the objectives forming this trade organization was to develop guidance documents for the offshore industry. One of them is M190, the guidance for developing and conducting DP annual trial programs, which was accepted by the offshore industry and governing bodies as a standard. However, there is a downside to today's scheme. Additional personnel have to travel to the rig or to the vessel offshore. The vessel has to be taken off hire. The trials at the moment are paper-based, and the body of evidence required by class is actually a PDF file. There is a potential for inconsistent reporting, as the quality of the trial is depending on the person executing it. And the DPO or the DP key personnel might rely too much on the surveyor competence, which actually undercuts one of the main objectives of the DP annual trial, namely enhancement of the crew's competence. The way forward. As you know, all DP systems like power, propulsion, control systems, sensors, and auxiliary equipment share data on a network. This data can be harvested and analyzed in a systematic and consistent way. Kongsberg's target is to replace the traditional based method by the DPDS application, which will improve the quality and consistency of the DP annual trials to an unprecedented level, and will enhance the competence of the DP key personnel. The DPDS product is based on IMO 1580, IMCA 190, and the vessel-specific FMEA proving trial. During the trial, all the data is harvested and stored on board the vessel as a body of evidence. And I would like to emphasize that in the early days in developing this kind of tools, there was talk about remote surveys. I would like to emphasize that these surveys are not remote. The vessel is completely independent of the internet. There is no connection. However, the body of evidence on board the vessel will be transmitted to shoreside on a convenient time for the owner, where we use type-approved Kongsberg Global Secure Network. And then the data is available onshore for review by the surveyor or the consultant. As everybody knows, the offshore industry is under tremendous pressure at the moment. And a lot of companies, they struggle with their revenue. So what we have looked at is how can we help to reduce the overall cost of the DP annual trials for the owners. By using the DPDS app, there is no need for surveyors or consultants to travel offshore. As each test is an independent entity and the estimated time for each test is known, the captain and the client can together determine if some non-productive time can be used for several tests, instead of that the vessel is taken out of operation for 2 days, for example. Another benefit is that the results are consistent over time. You do not depend on the person executing the test or review. So that is a big benefit for the quality and the consistency of the test. Another aspect which I just mentioned is the enhancement of the crew's competence. I would like to mention IMCA 117, which clearly states in chapter 7.1 that the captain must be able to conduct an annual trial. And we will explain to you later how the product is built up and where the onshore organization and the onboard crew collaborate in making the preparations for the tester. And the captain, together with the client, can select which test can be done during non-productive time. And the tests will be executed by the captain and the vessel staff. Once the tests are done, and that can be either at the end of all the tests or there can be an intermediate report, a report is generated by the app based on IMCA M190 Appendix 1, which most of you use in the daily operation as well. And the benefit as well is that the product is tamper-free. Nobody can change the data. That is what we have. We have safety guards in place to ensure that. We have divided the process cycle of the annual trial into 6 parts. The first one is the planning, which is done onshore, where the owner and the surveyor compile a vessel-specific DP trial program based on the FMEA proving trial. And the onshore surveyor or the DP consultant can approve the program for the next year. The next phase is the preparation phase, which is done on board the vessel, where the captain and the client can plan for time slots for each test according to an estimated duration, which is known. And non-productive time can be utilized. In this way, all the tests can be done between the DP certificate date plus or minus 3 months, the anniversary date of the certificate. The next phase is the execution. The tests are executed by the captain and the engineers on duty, and every step of the test is logged. Amir will show you later in more detail. In this way, all the DPQ personnel on board get a better understanding of how their vessel is built, how it is operated, and how everything is connected together. So this will definitely improve the competence of your DPQ personnel. The next step is reporting. The app is able to produce either an intermediate or a final report, which initially is kept on board and then at a convenient time is sent onshore for review by the surveyor. All the test reports and the control system data is initially stored on board. Then at a convenient time, the data is sent onshore by a secure, reliable and tamper-proof replication via KIMS. And the KIMS has a type-approved certificate for data storage and exchange. And then all the data is available for the review by the surveyor, which is the next phase. The surveyor receives access to the data by the owner. Just to emphasize, it is the owner who controls access to the data. In the app, as Amir will show, there is a playback and an evaluation of each test. There's an alarm list, and alarms specific for the test, but also the critical alarms during the whole test for all the systems. There is a dashboard for each test, which shows the vessel behavior during the test, because the purpose of the test is to check that a single failure will not result in a loss of position or heading. The surveyor can also review all the attachments that are connected to this specific test. That can be either pictures, video, or alarm lists. The surveyor can then accept or reject the test, and there is a dedicated dialog box for the surveyor. Then the final phase is where the trial is accepted by the surveyor or the DP consultant, and the final report is produced, and the owner controls the body of evidence, and in consultation with the class and the client shares the data. And the final report is sent offshore. And as I mentioned before, we have made the app based on IMCA 190 Annex 1. I would like to ask Amir to go to more detail about the DPDS, and I will hand over the presentation now for the next 10 minutes to Amir. Thank you.
Hello everybody, I'm Amir and I hope you can hear me well. I hope you're also all well. I've been working for Kongsberg for about 15 years. I've been through DP and automation engineering and developing. For the past 7-8 years, I've been working with digitalization, and I hold currently a position of product advisor for digital application, which DPDS is also part of for the DP systems. So I'm going to go to the next slide. Okay, this is part of our pilots we were running in Angola. This is one screenshot from that one. And then you also have another pilot we were running in the Northern Sea with DMGL and Subsea 7, and the previous one was with Bureau Veritas and Bourbon. That's a small part of it, and we have approval here stamped on the right side as well. Okay, But for the application, which is the part I'm going to be talking more about, first of all, this is a web-based application. So basically, it's bringing your own device, and it should support HTML5, and then you're up and running. So whatever I'm going to show you today is going to be on a web-based platform. So right now, what you're looking at is the DPDS planner. What the planner does is you can, as a superintendent, you can plan for the whole 5-year trial, 1 year at a time. So you can see on the right top side here, you can drop down and select which year you're planning for. And on the body of the list is going to contain all the tests you have in FMA for DP trials. And then you select the test for the year you're selecting for. And as you can see, your username will be imprinted, and the test name is there as well. And you can also select if it's a part of class scope or not. And when all of these this activity is completed, you can, as a superintendent, contact the surveyor or class to get the test approved. And the surveyor will log in through secure web logging and see the same page. And what the surveyor have access to only is the acceptance field on the top side you can see here. So she can select to accept or reject the tests. A rejection is done with a comment. But if it's accepted, it's official tests. If the superintendent logs in again and modifies the layout of the plans for the 5-year trial, they are going to void the test, and they have to get another acceptance done by surveyor or class. So that's the functionality of this. So now we're going to move from onshore, from the office of the areas of the vessel owner, and to the offshore and onboard the vessel itself. So here we have the trial program. So the captain can load each of the years and see what has been planned for the vessel for each year. And then he can choose to do a more detailed planning when he intends to execute each single test. This is to inform the staff onshore that when he has unproductive time or downtime that he wants to run from these tests. And then, as you can see some statuses of each test, and also a link to the test itself, where we are going. So we come to the test itself. This is again loaded on any of the computers on the ship network. Some like to have a tablet, so it's mobile. What you can see here is basically a paper version of what you typically fill out during a trial. And on the top side here, you can see a start and then finishing of tests. So when you start is the official start, the date is imprinted. And then all the steps within each test is listed in the grid here. So you execute each of the steps, and you clicked for passed or not passed of the actual test, and you also confirm the alarms if any were accepted. And if you have any discrepancies, you can do the comment section here. So for some cases, we don't have any IO readings for some of the equipment, which is part of the test itself. In those cases, you can choose to upload media. So this is done here by the browse button. You take your photos and you upload them. So now what we do, we have some routines to make sure these photos are produced within the execution of the test itself. So we open up the file in the backend when it's uploaded, and we check it for when the photo standard has imprinted the internal date. That means your cameras, your cell phones, whatever you're taking photos with, have to be time synced. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to upload the photo. It has to have been taken during the period of the test. And also on the right side here, you can also choose to grab any of the screens. If you have DP automation on board, and any operator station on the control system can provide a screenshot into the body of this test as well. So then you can just drop down, you select the operator station, it grabs the current screenshot. So when you've done a test, then you can sign. 2 people have to sign the test. You see 4 boxes here. You can either have your name drop down from a drop down, or you can imprint your name manually. That's why you have 4 checkboxes. And then you're done, you press finish. The finish button is not possible to press before you have signed the actual tests. So when you have signed the test, the finish button will appear and you can click it. So that's basically how you run your tests. And in the background, the alarm and event data and the time series data for position deviations and all the sensor alarms, everything is logged as it has been logged for the past 20 years. So that's the body of evidence, which when the vessel gets the onshore connectivity, if it's disconnected during DP trials, when it's reconnected, all that data gets sent onshore. So now we've done all these tests. We're ready we're happy about the tests, and the surveyors are involved again with the class and to play back. So they get a login, and we suggest having a multiple screen when you are going to survey a test onshore, or do it with DPDS because it can be done anywhere basically where if the level of access is correct and you have the correct VPN from your own sources, you can connect to the survey and start playing back tests. So as you can see, Harry told you a little bit about the main surveyor playback, which is going to be on the right side here. You have the tests when they are clicked. So you have a start and stop button here when you can start actually playing back the entire test in the same second by second as it was done on board, or you can fast forward to the next time you see an alarm you're interested in, and you can see that the vessel was in correct position, and then you basically, when you're happy, you can approve the test or reject it, and the rejection is then the rejection information is also synced back to the test, both to the surveyor and also to the crew on board with the comments from surveyor of what actually made this test being rejected. So you have an idea what you need to improve and do the test again. And then we also made a lot of supporting dashboards, we call them. That's why it's beneficial to have 2 screens. So if you go to here, you can see that you have one screen of the conning view and one screen of the test itself. When you're playing back, you can see where what the vessel is executing, the thruster allocations, the position deviation, and whatnot. And then you can also see which step of the test they are actually completing at the moment. And scrolling down, you find the alarms and the other sections as well. So here, another view of the single line, how that's executing. That's very, when you're doing full power test, that's going to be good to have. So basically, that's how it's done. And these data are played back onshore. They are historical data, so and they are relative to the clock and time. So you can select to go back and forward and replay the test as many times you want. Okay, that was my last slide, and we just entered the Q&A sessions. Harry, did you manage to get up the Q&A box? Good. Then I'll leave it to Harry to go through the questions.
Can you hear me? All right, the first question. A test is only useful if there's a possibility that it can be failed. How and when are failures flagged to DPO? Yes, a test can fail because in our app for each test is the expected results is named, like today in the paper version. So the test can fail, and the app includes the conditions that the test will be accepted or failed. So the answer is yes, the test can fail. DPDS, the next question is, the DPDS will need additional software for the trials. Well, the DP system as such, so the DP control and the PMS and the thruster control does not need any additional software. What is required is the Kongsberg KIMS system and the DPDS application. Next question. Will all the tests for complete FMEA? Yes, and this is something that we have already done for several vessels. The FMEA Proving Trial Program is the master list for the DPDS application. We sit down with the owners, we get the tag list from all the equipment, and then we make up the DPDS application for that specific vessel. So in principle, yes, you can run the whole FMEA test on the application. However, initially, we have stated, and also a little bit of my background, I would say the 5-yearly FMEA should be witnessed, and I also expect somebody from the owner to be on board. Sorry. But the FMEA can be run with the application. So the answer is yes. Next question. What is the acceptability of the test in comparison to the conventional trials to the clients? It's a very good question, and that is why we have been in touch with oil majors and have been traveling around the world and presented this application to also to the oil and gas majors, and nowadays the wind farm owners as well. So I would say the quality and the consistency of the digital survey is of such a level that is far superior to the paper-based as of today. So I don't think we have any problem convincing the oil majors. DPDS application, the next question, recognized by IMCA. Well, IMCA does not recognize products. As a matter of fact, I'm myself on behalf of, I am on the IMCA Marine DP committee, and we do not talk about products. So the product will be type approved by the class societies. Next question. How many gyro in your system? Well, so there is no limit to the number of equipment that can be connected to the application. So whether you have 1 or 4 or 6 gyros, it is all registered by the data. Next question. Does the class societies accept this documentation for the annual class renewal test? Which class societies have accepted this approach? As Amir has shown, we have run 2 trials with Bureau Veritas, one in Africa and one with DNVGL in the North Sea. Maybe you have seen on the internet that ABS is also working with a similar product from a competitor. So the intention from Kongsberg Maritime is to contact all the major class societies and get a type approval for this product. Next question. The next question is, how many thrusters are usually needed for DP system? I don't think this is a question related to KIMS. So we can, sir or ma'am, if you send me an email, I can answer that question for you in person. The next question, is the DPDS just an application installed on KIMS? Yes, it is. And for the cost, you have to contact the after sales. The next question, how does the surveyor play the test result? What we have agreed upon is that a playback, there will be a KIMS station at the class society office, and they, via the owner, will get access to the data. And they can then replay and also call up all the data that is available. And I would like to emphasize one more time that on the bottom of the test is the behavior of the vessel. Dus if you run like a partial blackout test, you can see immediately if the vessel is losing position or holding position. I think that is very important. The next question, will DPDS allow the test to be spread over a long period of time, like a month? Yes. In principle, IMO 1580 talks about anniversary date plus or minus 3 months. Some companies, they take the liberty or take the whole year. There is no time limit. It's all what the owners decide, the policy of the owner that is governing. The question, what is the total expected file size at the end of the test? Well, I have to say that I don't know how many kilobytes, but you have to understand that all the data is compressed and encrypted before it is being sent. I saw one question just before about if the vessel is outside the internet coverage. Well, we do not need internet. And you know, all vessels has GMDSS satellite communication, and you have a mode called store and forward. So you can choose a period with cheap. So that is, you do not rely on internet. All right, we have now reached the end of the Q&A session. I hope that this webinar has been useful to you. If you have more questions or are interested in additional information, please contact Amir or myself on the email addresses shown on the screen. There will be a recording of this webinar available online for everyone who has registered for this webinar session. You will receive a follow-up mail with a link to the recording within the next 24 hours. We would like you to fill in the feedback response form that will be shown after the presentation. Now we have to conclude this webinar about the DP Digital Survey application. And I would like to thank you for your attention and questions. Please take care, stay safe, and for my mariner friends, bon voyage. Thank you.